All right, joined now by Bill Koch, Red Sox beat writer for the Providence Journal. Bill, thanks for joining us on this big return of the sports wrap. Let's start with this. We've been up to Fenway a couple times, but you're there every day. Can you just tell our viewers how bizarre or weird this whole situation is? It's a good weird because we're getting baseball back, but just under the circumstances at Fenway day in and day out.
I think the best thing you could say, Yianni, is it's 2020 normal, right? Everything is different. Everything has changed. But in terms of just being at the ballpark every day, it's what you would be doing in July. And getting ready for games on Friday night, that's opening day for the Red Sox against the Orioles. It seems somewhat natural considering everything else that's going on in the world. So I'm grateful to be back there every night, and I'm grateful that baseball is about to return.
I know, it's so bizarre that it's, we're used to opening day being on a cold like April day, and here we are late July, and it was 98 degrees today. All right, we haven't really done a season preview, so I want to talk about some big picture stuff as well as some other stuff that's more day to day. How much of a concern do you have for this Red Sox rotation?
As much as anybody else, because you have unproven guys there, really. Ryan Weber and potentially Brian Johnson, who could have the number 4 spot. Neither one of them made double-digit starts last year in the major leagues. Eduardo Rodriguez is obviously working his way back from COVID-19. Who knows when he's going to be ready to pitch. Chris Sale's out for the season, obviously, and that's supposed to be your ace. So you're down at least 2 guys to start. You traded away David Price, and you lost Rick Porcello in free agency. Those are generally 2 guys who have given you innings over the last few seasons. So there's a lot of unknown there. They're going to use all sorts of different options, whether it's in the rotation, as the opener, coming out of the bullpen. They'll try and mix and match on given nights. We'll see how it goes.
So Nathan Eovaldi is our starter for opening night. Last night in the simulated game or the scrimmage, he was roughed up a little bit in that 3rd inning, settled down a little bit. It's been a while since, or maybe ever for him, since he's had the burden of being a top of the rotation guy. How do you anticipate him responding to that role for the Red Sox this year?
Well, from a physical standpoint, he looks ready. Certainly I think he's overcome the surgery that he had last year to remove bone chips from his elbow. Mentally he's saying all the right things. He's embracing the challenge of leading the rotation. And I think that's the type of guy that he is, Yianni. I think we saw that in 2018. He's willing to sacrifice for the team. Whatever they need, he's going to give his best effort to give it to them. So I think he's embracing it. Beyond him, obviously, you have much bigger questions with Martin Perez and with the 2 other guys we spoke about earlier.
All right, so let's get to the Red Sox offense, which, despite Mookie Betts' departure, still is pretty stacked. Is this offense good enough to withstand the shortcomings in the rotation?
It should be very good. When you consider that Rafael Devers and Xander Bogaerts both had career years last year, you still have J.D. Martinez in the middle of that order, who is a bona fide slugger, and is someone who's going to be able to serve as a designated hitter for all 60 games if he chooses, with the National League adopting the universal model there. So I certainly think that the heart of this order is going to be very good, and I think starting in the warm weather, hitters always like that. They dread April and May in Boston because it is cold, and that wind whips in off the Charles River. Now it's turned around. It's coming off land and blowing out toward the Fenway fences. So I definitely think that the offense will hit the ground running. It's just a matter of how many runs they're going to have to score on a given night.
What are the early returns on Alex Verdugo, who was the centerpiece of the Betts and Price trade?
Been a little slow start with the bat. In the inner squad, he hasn't really shown that much. Defensively, he's a good player, very strong throwing arm. He's quick on his feet. So I think he could play right field or center field if asked to do so. I think, Yianni, that there's going to be a lot of pressure on that guy, and I think there would be more if there were fans in the stands and the normal contingent of media. He's the only big league piece that you got back for Mookie Betts and David Price. They have great hopes for Jeter Downs and Connor Wong, but those guys are prospects right now. They're not necessarily close to the major league roster. They're essentially lottery tickets at this point. You hope you hit on at least one of them. So I think there's going to be some pressure on Verdugo to perform for sure.
You mentioned Jeter Downs and Colton Wong. What do you make of the whole alternate training site, the PawSox serving essentially as the minor league facility for guys that aren't on the active roster. Obviously good to have baseball at McCoy, but what do you make of the setup there?
Well, it is a little bit sad, Yianni, considering what 2020 was supposed to be for that franchise. I know that they had significant plans to send the players off to Worcester for 2021. They were going to bring back former players, remember past games, past seasons. And Yianni, you grew up here just like I did. You know how big a fabric of the state and of the community the PawSox have been over the years. I can't imagine as a kid not going to PawSox games on summer nights with my parents, my brother, and my grandfather. So it is probably more strange to watch that at McCoy than it is to watch what's going on at Fenway, because you know that it's about to come to an end. But I think Willie McMillan said all the right things when he spoke to us the other day, just about how guys need to take it seriously and that they are the depth pieces for the Major League roster right now, and there is a chance, even though they're not playing games, for them to develop their skills and potentially have a shot at making a Major League debut.
Okay, Ron Roenicke put in a difficult spot becoming the Red Sox manager after Alex Cora was fired. All the Zoom calls, I think he's done a good job with the media so far. Obviously, he's had some experience managing in the big leagues. Is there a pressure on him because maybe people aren't expecting a lot for the Red Sox? There's always pressure being the Red Sox manager, but being that it's such a difficult position he was thrust into, how do you evaluate where Ron Roenicke falls into this puzzle here?
I think it's a good point, Yianni. I think people realize if they look at the roster on paper that it's not what it was in 2018 when they won the World Series. He has a couple significant injuries there. Chris Sale, obviously, chief among them. They've made a trade that has sent away the American League MVP 2 years ago. And obviously he's coming in after Alex Cora and the team parted ways. So I think very difficult circumstances for Ron. It is important that he does have that experience with the Brewers. He did manage them to a National League Championship Series in 2011. So he knows how to do the job day in and day out. He knows how to deal with the media. He's been here in Boston for 2 years, so he's familiar with that. But I generally think, Yianni, that, just me as a media member looking at the roster, I think anything that Roenicke can do with this group is a little bit of a bonus. I think they're looking at, over the next couple of years or so, shedding some salary off the payroll and sort of rebuilding this thing from the ground up a little bit.
So that brings me to my final question. 60 games, so over under 30 wins for the Red Sox.
I'm going to say under, and I'm going to say that because obviously the pitching isn't necessarily set up to get you off to a great start. And I think that August 31st trade deadline is something that you want to watch, because if this team is intent on reloading the minor league system and sort of rebuilding over a couple of years, you could see guys who are pending free agents or who only have, one extra year of team control be on the market, whether that's Jackie Bradley Jr., Brandon Workman, Matt Barnes, guys who would have value to teams who are contenders at some point. So I definitely think that I would have to go under 30 wins for the Red Sox.
Remind me, how many wild card teams are there this year? Is there even more than?
Have no idea. Haven't gotten that far. If the Red Sox are in contention going into September, I'll educate myself a little better on the new rules.
Okay, so what's your World Series pick as we stand here now?
Well, I mean, you have to like what the Yankees did, bringing in Garrett Cole. That was the biggest missing piece they had last year, was the ace starting pitcher, a guy who's a top 5 pitcher in baseball right now. In the National League, how can you look past the talent that the Dodgers have? I mean, I know that these are chalk picks, Yianni, but, you have to look at Los Angeles adding Mookie Betts, having Walker Buehler emerge as one of the best pitchers in baseball. That lineup is going to be scary. And I think that makes a huge difference over 60 games. The fact that they're going to be able to slug and then have the pitchers sort of rounding into form for October. So I think we'll get a classic matchup between two huge brands in MLB, the Yankees and the Dodgers in October.
All right, he's Bill Koch, Red Sox writer for the Providence Journal. Thanks so much for joining us, Bill, and great job covering the Sox. We'll continue to read the coverage.
Great to be back, Yianni. Thank you.